welcome to our monthly meetup. And tonight, topic being customer-centered website design. And my name is Brad Barbeau. I'm on the faculty of CSUMB. I teach entrepreneurship and I teach a digital marketing seminar. I also am director of the CSUMB Institute for Innovation and Economic Development. And in this capacity tonight, I am also the founder and CEO of 21CM Digital Marketing. We do these meetups each month to take a topic in digital marketing and explore it in some depth and turn it into a discussion with folks. So here we are. Thank you for joining us tonight. We did not do a fabulous job of marketing this particular seminar, so we're happy that you're here to join us. Hang on, I've got my magic mouse is, there we go. So now I'm going to switch from that to doing it this way. All right, so, oh, you know what? Actually, what I really need to do is switch slide decks because I'm realizing I want to be in this slide deck right here. I'm almost there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Welcome, Kathy Bell.
Thank you. Had technical difficulties, had to log out.
All right. So welcome, everybody. Now I've got the right slide deck up there. Okay, 21CM Digital Marketing. We're a full-service digital marketing agency based in Monterey. And as I said, we use these sessions to explore digital marketing strategies, tools, and techniques. In case you hadn't noticed, we are online. I think everybody knows the drill on these. Now, if you have a question, we're a small group. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in and ask your question. We like questions. It's much more fun discussing than it is lecturing, except for the lecturer, maybe. You can also use chat. Chat's great. Don't forget to unmute yourself. We are recording, so if you don't want to show up on the recording, keep your camera off. Although if you're willing to have your camera on, we'd love to feel like we're presenting to real people rather than names and photographs. But leaving them off is okay.
Brad, since we're such a small group this month, can we do introductions all around?
Yes, that's a great idea. Let me get there. Let me start with our team who's here. I introduced myself, Brad Barbeau. Next is Anjika.
I'm Anjika Granager, and I am a graphic and web designer for 21CM. Been with it from the start. Brad and I got this whole thing going.
We did. Lynette.
Hi, my name is Lynette Lathrop. I am working with 21CM as the customer success specialist / project manager, and my background is in email marketing.
Excellent. Bridget Cotton.
Hi, everyone. I am doing the social media here at 21CM. I am in my last semester at CSUMB. Thank God I'm making it through. And in a couple of days, I'm on my way to Vegas to fight in a jiu-jitsu tournament. So busy girl.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And she is Percy. Oh, I'm so glad you turned your camera on because I all of a sudden realized who's on there. Cool. We'll give you two a chance to introduce yourselves in a little bit. Okay, that was Bridget Cotton. Now we have Anjika. We have two Bridget Hogans on here.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I really just put this together on the fly at the very end. Our next person, the wonderful, beautiful blonde Norwegian is actually Pernilla.
Pernilla Dahl, who is in the process of moving today, so she is not with us tonight. And the last person who is the real Bridget Hogan. Bridget, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget Hogan, and I'm a recent graduate from CSUMB, and I'm the digital advertising specialist here at 21CM.
Cool. So that is us. Let's find out who you are. Now, usually if we have a little bigger group, we do this in chat because it gets too time consuming, but we're a smaller group. So this is your chance to tell us who you are and what you're up to. Let's start with the Lammies.
Go ahead.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Percival G. Lamy. I am the owner and president of Gourmet Louisiana Style Sweet Potato Pie.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen or heard from you in so long. How is everything going? We competed in Startup Challenge together.
Yes, yes, yes.
How's it going?
Doing okay, doing okay. I'm looking at doing things differently. I'm actually, we're going to be showing at the West End event and
excellent.
in the Jazz Festival. So that's what we're doing. And my lovely wife here, Kim, is the CEO.
How are you,
Hi,
Kim?
nice to see you guys. You guys are like some of my favorite competitors.
And for those who don't know him, Percy makes absolutely the best sweet potato pies you have ever tasted. So go to one of those events and get them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't just do pies anymore. I'm doing a little bit more stuff. So you know.
Cool.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, we will have to catch up. And
Yeah.
I need to
guys
get you to.
feel free to put your website in the chat so people can get it. Okay. You got
Yeah, I gotta. The reason I'm here.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. 'Cause my website is down, and I'm trying to reconfigure and try to get things done. I have to get some. There's so many things that are going on, and
Yeah.
I would like to get someone to actually help me with it. You know, that's where I'm at right now.
You are in the right
I'm
place.
really good at that.
You know, I pay in pie, so.
I might be able to work something out partially. We got a lot of people on our team that I think like pie at this point.
Absolutely. So let me continue around. I'm going to follow the order that's on my screen. So Kathy Bell Barlow, you are up next.
So hi, I'm Kathy Bell Barlow, and I am Management and Research Intern with IIED Startup Monterey Bay. I'm also one of the Social Venture Division winners of Startup Challenge this year, and so I'm working on getting my nonprofit to be filed as a nonprofit and 501c3. And I'm looking right now at fiscal sponsorship so that I can get that check and start filing.
So
And I'm
give us
looking at-
2 sentences on what your nonprofit is.
So it is a centralized location where people can find local activities and events or organizations with local activities and events and links to those activities and events.
Cool. Thank you. And continuing around, Juliana.
Hello, everybody. My name is Juliana, and I am the founder of Alma Superfoods. We are a nut butter company where we bring savory and sweet nut butters where I infuse Latin American ingredients. The concept is bringing exciting flavors. So I bring superfoods coming from Peru. I am Peruvian. So I use different fruits, exotic fruits to infuse our nut butters, as well as peppers for our savory nut butters. We have 4 flavors, 2 sweet and 2 savory. And I will put the website so people can see about our company and our flavors.
Excellent. And Juliana distributes her products through West Coast Agave, who our team knows because we built the West Coast Agave website.
Yes, that's true. And I have the the fortune to speak with you, Brad. I know it's been a while. Many
Yes, I'm
things
so glad to
change.
see you.
Actually, I'm living in Truckee right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, so we moved to Truckee a month ago. And so, but the company is still in the Bay Area in San Mateo, in Belmont, sorry, but the San Mateo County. The company will continue there. It's just a lot of things that we need to kind of shape now.
Yep.
And yeah, so I would like to learn. We are also in the process that we want to have our new website, and I am really interested to learn about this with you guys, with all of you.
Excellent. Great. You came to the right
Okay.
place.
Thank you.
for joining us.
No, thank you for the invitation. So happy to be here and to reconnect too.
Absolutely. And I don't know if I'm going to get the pronunciation right. Negin? Are you there? There we go.
Yes, you got it right. You got
Okay.
it perfect. Hi, I'm Negin Agarian, and I'm the founder of a digital marketing agency. It's pretty fresh, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can and just have some happy clients.
Excellent. Happy clients are good. We try for those too.
Yeah.
Are you, so what kinds of digital marketing do you do? All kinds of digital marketing? Or are you specializing in some area?
I'm specializing in a couple areas, such as website audit. I would do email marketing, content creation and scheduling, and management as well. And also digital marketing strategies and social media as well.
Excellent. Well,
Awesome.
welcome. I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you.
So this is us. Let us begin. By the way, so we have, I'll mention this a couple times. So a concept called site health, which is how well is your site doing? This isn't about how your site looks, but about how your site performs. And Google is very sensitive to the performance of your site. Are things loading quickly? Do you have good links that aren't broken? Do you have good backlinks that are not from toxic websites and other issues? And we offer a digital marketing site health report, a free health report. And if you go to 21cm.global/free site health report, or equivalently 21cm digital marketing/free site health report. And Lynette has put that in chat, so that link is available. If you have an existing website and you'd like us to take a look at it and produce a report for you, we would be happy to do that. So tonight we're going to do our usual, which is we do each month, we do a tip of the month. And tonight Lynette is going to talk about 5 ways to avoid sending your emails to spam. They don't do you much good if they end up in spam. So how to avoid that. And then myself and Anjika and Lynette are going to speak to customer-centered website design. So without further ado, let's jump to the tip of the month. So Lynette,
Yes,
you ready?
I am ready. So today I wanted to go over 5 ways to avoid sending your emails to spam. These are not all the ways, but these are 5 very good ways to avoid getting your emails missed and making sure that you get the exposure that you work so hard for. Next slide, please. I want to start off with a few stats, a very quick data dump. So 92% of online adults use email. Next slide. 61% of consumers prefer to be contacted by brands through email. So remember that, that's very important. Next slide.
I thought all consumers wanted us to call them on the telephone.
No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Especially now that we have too many spam callers. And then 99% of email users check their emails every single day, some as many times as 20 times per day. And I know from our stats that some of our subscribers check their emails more than that. So that's a good little tidbit. Next slide. 58% of users check their emails before they even check social media or the news. So for those of you that wake up and grab your phone and scroll through, there are a lot of people that check their email first. Next slide. So here we go. 5 ways to keep your emails out of spam. Go ahead to the next slide. So tip number 1, make sure you send emails to people who actually want your email. Be careful, never rent or buy an email list. That is a big issue. That is how you get very unengaged contacts and maybe not even legitimate emails, and there are legal implications. You should not send any emails to anyone that did not explicitly say they gave you permission to send them emails. So do not do that. And that is in violation of the CAN-SPAM Act. And that will also put your business reputation on the line. You do not want to look bad by doing that. Next slide. Next tip is don't use clickbait subject lines. So these are the subject lines that are most likely going to end up in the spam folder because email providers will filter these emails that have these so-called trigger words. If they see any trigger words like extra income, fast cash, clearance, you know those are probably scammy or they're just unappealing. So email providers will most likely filter those and send them to your spam folder. And if you are the marketer, you just dumped all your money, time, and effort in the drain because your customers will never see these emails. Another thing to be very careful about is check your grammar, check your punctuation, so it actually looks like a thought out email and a legitimate email. Next slide. Another tip is update your email footer. So here's a little snapshot that I got from the Monterey County Weekly. They make sure to put their physical address. They make sure to put an unsubscribe option so that, you know, even though we don't like to say goodbye to our subscribers, they should still have the option if they're no longer interested in your services or your marketing. And this will together when you put this together, it looks like you're a real legitimate business. And of course, whenever these information change, make sure you update accordingly. Next slide.
So if I can just make a brief comment here, that the thing we need to remember is that the machines are reading your email and scanning for all these things. So this one, because the mailing address is there, that looks more legitimate to them. So this isn't just so that the people receiving the emails think it looks like a legitimate one. It's Google. If you know it's going to a Gmail account, Google is looking and scanning, and they are getting smarter and smarter about figuring out what's not legitimate.
Yes, that's correct. And the more spam emails that Gmail can sort through or read with their technologies, the more sophisticated they get in filtering out these emails.
Yep.
So going on to tip number 4, keep an eye on your email stats. So many businesses, when they build their email list, they send out email blasts, but what happens after that? You have to make sure you look at the statistics you get back. So how well are you doing on your open rates? That means how many people actually open your emails out of the ones you send out. Delivery rate, so that means how many actually make it to the inbox. Sometimes they bounce. That means they probably don't have a legitimate email or they have a filter on emails coming from you. Click rate, how many people open your emails and actually click something. That's important to put a call to action so they have something to click and take action. Unsubscribes, so how many people are no longer interested in your services or your marketing. And of course, spam reports. That means they saw your email and they thought that they shouldn't receive it. So they will report you as spam, which is not good because let's say Gmail gets enough spam reports from your email address, you're going to automatically go to the spam folder next time you send that email. Okay, next slide.
We've got a question in chat from Kathy
Sure.
Bell. She says, my company is web-based, so my
Mhm.
business address is my home address, which I do not want to post online, which is a very good idea to
Mhm.
not post your home address on. What should she do?
How about get
Um,
a post office box?
Yeah, some people do that. Or another good way to make your footer look pretty professional is also give them a way to contact you. Put your email address, of course, put your name and your website to link to. That could be an alternative, but it might not be as strong as an actual physical address. But yes, Anjika, some people do sign up for a PO box because either way, most businesses need a way to accept mail.
Yep. There are also organizations, I work with a co-working space in Monterey, and you can set up a virtual email or a virtual mail address there where it'll get delivered to that address in Monterey. Cool.
Oh, that's awesome. So places like Hello Desk will like allow you to receive mail.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah,
Yep.
so those are some solutions. Tip number 5, send targeted and relevant emails. So you need to make sure that to maintain a healthy and engaged email list, you need to make sure you're giving your customers relevant and valuable information. If you're not sending anything that will make their life better, that will educate them, inform them, entertain them, or inspire them, please do not send that email. That will make your brand look not good, and it will make your customers probably unsubscribe from you. So as long as you're giving them beneficial information or value, perceived value, then go ahead and send that email. If not, please do not send that email.
I call that the IEI rule.
Yeah. Thanks. Next
Well,
slide.
if we reorganize it, it could be the EIEI rule.
How about you singing that song, Old MacDonald Had a Farm?
EIEI. Oh, there we go.
I need to add an O.
Oh no.
All right. Let me get the working. There we go.
All right, so that wraps up my 5 ways to avoid sending your emails to spam folder. Number 1, don't send to anybody that doesn't want your emails and have expressed that they want your email. And don't be clickbait. Even though it'll get you some email opens, it might not even convert because, again, well, it might end up in the spam folder, or it might look scammy, or most of those emails will disappoint. Update your email footer for credibility. Keep an eye on your email stats. So if there are some undesirable stats, you might want to make some changes. And then send targeted and relevant and valuable emails. Only send those.
So we can put these 5 tips up on our social media. And if you guys want to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and such, then you can get a little reminder of everything that Lynette talked about tonight.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, happy to do that.
And so Lynette, going by your rule 2 here, don't be clickbait. So you
Mhm.
should never send an email in which the subject line is 5 ways to avoid the spam folder, right?
Probably not.
But it makes a great title and a perfect tip of the month. Thank you for that. That was excellent. Any questions anyone has?
So Percy and Kim said, how do you get your email stats? We use Gmail. So a common way that businesses keep track of their stats is they use a system called a CRM system. It's a customer relationship management system. So those include MailChimp, HubSpot, Constant Contact, and most of them have free starter plans. If you want to talk more about that, I will nerd out and talk to you about that all day. But Gmail is not as comprehensive, so I would recommend researching and looking at different CRM options. And those free services, usually they have free starter plan, will help you track those automatically. So it'll be free and effortless.
And I put your email address into chat there.
Cool.
So you want
Yes.
that?
Happy to discuss
That-
more.
Thank you. That was our tip of the month. Excellent. All right. And now for the moment almost nobody's been waiting for, but we'll do it anyway. customer-centered website design. Now I have to switch over to my other slide deck. So give me just a moment to make that adjustment. Escape out of that. I have to go to this one, make sure that's the right one. Put it in present. Et voila. Customer-centered website design. So let me introduce this in the, excuse me, I'm trying to reorganize my screen and it doesn't want to reorganize, so I'll just ignore it. Let me introduce this in the following way. So I want to pose the question, whose website is it anyway? It's your website, right? So it should be designed to your objectives, but your objectives are typically to get and keep visitors, to engage your visitors, to ultimately convert them into customers. So it might be better if we look at your website as their website, your user's website. And just something to note, usability and utility, not visual design, determine the success or failure of a website. So it's not about having the prettiest website just to have a pretty website. It's about using the visual design of the site to enhance the usability and utility. But those are what count. And I think,
Okay, Brad, as a designer, convince me.
convince you. Well, as a designer, you love the design of Craigslist, right? You think that that's just absolutely the high art, good old Craigslist interface.
Well, it's been working for longer than my kid's been alive, and he's an adult now, so.
It's almost been working longer than I've been alive, and it works great. It gets a ton because it presents in a simple and easy to use way the information that people need. Now, I would not suggest that you make your website look like Craigslist. Not the point. I think that a site being visually pleasant to see and to interact with is important. But remember, it's always in the service of usability and utility for the site visitors. So let's think a little bit about how users think. First thing I'd say is users don't plan on them thinking. So when people read ads or when people look at most websites, they're not studying them like there's going to be a final exam. They use shortcuts to quickly get to what they want to do. First of all, they don't read your website, they scan. They're looking for visual cues on the website that help them know, well, what's this page about and where's the information I really want? They don't scan sequentially. They don't just go down the page from top to bottom. They scan in somewhat random patterns. Users are impatient. Think about when you go to a website, how much patience do you have to wait for the website to load and to find what you want? If they can't find what they want very, very quickly within a small single-digit number of seconds, they are going to leave and go elsewhere. Instant gratification is what we expect on the web. Users satisfice, that's kind of a big word, but users choose the first reasonable option. They don't go through and find, well, what is the best? They look for the first one that they think will work and go there. And finally, they're looking for content, not design. Again, the example of Craigslist is a great example of that. Content is king, if you will. So first design principle, don't make your users think, don't make them search, don't use clever headers that make them, it's okay to use a little bit of humor, but don't use overly clever headers that they have to stop and sort of parse the words in their head. If they don't get the meaning right away, their eyes will move on to the next spot. I'm a big believer in moving from thinking about websites as collections of pages. Our metaphor for the website is still basically a book. I want to think about websites as spaces, multi-dimensional spaces in which visitors can enter into, and they're going there on journeys to attain specific goals. So we need to pay attention to all three of these things to design great websites. And I think a great example for this forever for me has been these two different aquariums. The one on the bottom right was the aquarium I grew up with. I grew up around Detroit, Michigan, and this is the old Detroit Aquarium on Belle Isle. It is actually quite a famous aquarium. It was a big thing in its day, but its day was 1901 was when it was built. And it's basically like an art gallery. It has a bunch of pictures on a wall. Well, they're not pictures, they're aquariums, but you know, you go from one to the next and you look at the fish. And the difference between that and the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is pictured above left, of course, where they've done everything they can to make you feel like you are in the kelp bed. And the whole aquarium is designed around creating spaces into which we enter and we interact. And that's what we're wanting to get with our websites. Oops. So website is a space in which visitors go on journeys to attain their goals. So what do they need for a productive journey? They need a map. They need something that tells them where things are and gives them an idea of how to get there. And it's always good to have a little, like most malls do, a "you are here" to help them locate where they are in the site and where they can go to find what they want. So give them that "you are here." And one of the versions of that, here's an example from Amazon. They use something called breadcrumbs, which is kind of on the upper left there. There's a red box. Ignore the red box around paperback. That's Amazon's. But the red box on the upper left, where it says books, science fiction and fantasy, science fiction. That's breadcrumbs. That tells you what section of the site you're in and really helps you to orient you to, okay, what am I looking at? And if I want to go back and look at other versions of science fiction and fantasy, I know immediately where to go, and I can actually just click on that. Let's give them signs to guide their way. So we usually think of the navigation on a website as being in the navigation bar at the top. Those navigation bars are important. They need to be clear. They need to be well organized. And Anjika will show you some nice examples in a little bit of those. But you want to also have links and buttons within the page that allow them to move within your site without having to go back up to navigation. So Anjika, tell us about this lovely piece from the, does that really say Yale School of Art?
I was hoping to lead into this. So I have a little anecdote. When I was in design school, we had a guest speaker from an established marketing firm. He came in, he said, "How many of you think you're an artist?" And all of us raised our hands. He said, "I'm not going to hire any of you. I hire designers." This is actually the website for the Yale School of Art associated with Yale University. And it's absolutely a mess. There's too much going on. There's no real hierarchy of information. There's one tiny little box for navigation. So this is what you want to avoid. You can go to the next slide. This is another example of not really having effective navigation. This is the homepage for a water delivery company. And I didn't take a picture of the whole homepage because it had to scroll about 3 screens worth to get through all of the information that they decided to front load on their front page. So they gave you in the sidebar a very convenient listing of their products that they offer you. However, not one of these is a link. So you can see what they have to offer, but how do you get there to buy it? You're gonna have to navigate to the top. You're gonna have to navigate to the top. There's no scroll up button. You want to make it easiest for your users to get to their end goal. Don't put anything in front of them and don't put any obstacles in their way.
Cool, or not cool, as the case may be.
This is Politico. It's a news site that deals with politics, and they have a very large and complicated site. So they have provided an ease of navigation in that on their homepage they have a burger menu up in the top left corner, and if you click that, a navigation bar opens that has virtually everything that they offer, and they divide it up into little digestible chunks that they assume the user is going to search in this manner. So that's an easy way. It's clean, it's uncluttered. There's nothing else on this to distract the user, and they can easily find the information they need.
What I also notice about this, Anjika, is there's a lot, this is a huge website. It's got a lot of different places to go, but the layout makes it pretty easy to scan through these to find what you're looking for.
And what's more is if you can't find anything into these like easily consumable chunks of information, they have a search bar as well. That is like the only other thing, you know, within this navigation. So it really opens up the opportunity for the user to find their way to exactly the content that they want from the site. Okay, here's another one. This is like I think this was like I can't remember the name of this company, but they are also a very large and complicated site. They have a number of services that they offer. And so if you go to this is from their website, from their services page. This is an example. Most of the content is to the right of the screen. Right two-thirds of the screen explains everything that people are actually looking for. But because there's so much content there, they have supplied in the a left sidebar a navigation tool that scrolls with you as you go down the page. Every one of those listings of their services is an anchor to the point on that page where they're going to find that information. And what's more, they have a very subtle but effective animation that happens when you get to that section of the page, so that it opens up and then like you get these little dots that show up to help you remember where you're at and know where you are in the navigation of this page. It's very effective. This is actually an award-winning website for their navigation choices.
Very cool. All right, so second design principle, help your site visitors get what they want in the simplest way possible. Don't make it difficult. Don't use what I think of as IKEA design. If you've ever been in an IKEA store, once you get about 2 rooms in, you are lost. And that is by design. They want you to wander around that store. Don't do that to your site users. They'll simply leave. So how do we design in these kinds of user-friendly features? It's not just a single point of effort that does it. We believe in building this into each of the steps in our design process. And we use a 5-stage website design process that starts with planning the site, then into doing the design work. Then once the design is the way we want it, we build that site out. We then test it and then launch it and monitor it. And at each one of these stages, there are things that you need to pay attention to in order to get your users fully designed into your site. So starting with the planning stage and defining the website objectives and the structure and functionality of the site, of course, you're going to have company goals, right? You're building this website because you're wanting to achieve goals. You're wanting to give your customers information. You're wanting to get them to sign up for a newsletter. You're wanting to get them to purchase something on the site, or you're wanting to send them to a place where they can purchase the product if it's not sold online, but you have retail stores, for example. So you are going to have company goals for the website, and you need to connect the branding strategy for your business to the way that your website is designed, the look and feel of the website. But also, you need to, at this stage, explicitly get really, really clear about who your users are. And we do this by creating personas to use in the design process for the different types of users for the site. And make sure that you've got a clear understanding of what your website user, your customer, wants to achieve on the website. What are their goals in going to the website? Because if they're achieving their goals, then they're going to achieve your goals. So Lynette, tell us a little bit about these customer journey maps you use.
Sure. So part of our strategy in getting the website plan together is going through the steps and thinking through what the customer wants and needs from the site. So we go through a few stages, and this is an example we pulled from a website we're doing for Wild Plum Cafe. So number one, the box on the left is listing all the reasons why a user would want to visit the site. So we listed for this particular cafe and restaurant establishment, all the reasons why they want to go there, if they want to check payments accepted or what the menus are, etc. And then we go into different stages in how we can, what kind of information do we need to serve the customer in different stages of awareness. So stage one is just getting to know what the cafe is about. So they need to know things like what are the social media links, you know, how do they get there through Google search, any press articles or history or story, any information on outstanding staff or related materials, and then going on to research before the customer goes to the restaurant. They might want to do some research. So here's a list on what they need to know. Maybe they're interested in some online ordering options or delivery. How sustainable is this business? What are the practices they use to make sure that they're not making an impact on the environment that's not necessary? And then stage three is actually planning the visit. So they need information such as what are their COVID measures to make sure they have a healthy and safe environment. If there are other languages spoken by the staff there that might make the customer feel more comfortable speaking their native language, what the restaurant layout is, a menu and pricing. Stage four is what are the reasons or information they need on the website during their visit. So if they are in the restaurant now, what kind of information should we have available for them to access on the website? So maybe they want to leave a review online, they want to post something on social media and tag the restaurant and maybe the owner, if they have any loyalty programs that are online and things like that. And then after that, when they leave the restaurant, what are the use cases or information they need on the website after? So that would be, okay, maybe they want to go back and write a review. They want to post some pictures of their experience, see some attractions nearby. Some restaurants do have that and partnerships with local businesses. And then we go into stage 6. Hopefully they want to return. So sometimes people go back to websites to relive their experience or check any photos in the gallery and just remind themselves of what a good experience they've had and maybe get some directions back to the restaurant. So this is an example of one of the many customer journeys that we can do. And this is particularly it's specific to a restaurant setting.
That is a lot of detail. You really use this in designing a website, this much
Yes.
detail. Wow.
We got to catch all the opportunities.
Absolutely. That's
You want to
great.
anticipate any journey that your potential users are going to make, and you want to make sure that your website serves their journey wherever they are. Meet them where they are.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Okay, so out of that, we can then begin to build the website structure, a list of, well, what pages do we want to have on the site? I would like to say list of spaces, but then I'd confuse everybody. So we'll stay with the usual column pages. a list of pages. How are those pages going to be arranged? Typically, there's going to be a hierarchy of the pages, and that hierarchy needs to be thought through carefully to correspond to, so that pages are where your visitors would expect them to be, developing out of that a navigational structure, and what content needs to be on it on each page. At this stage, the content is usually just a summary of the content for each page. We do the detailed content at a little bit later stage. So here's an example. Lynette, tell us about this one.
Sure. So this is the step we took after we do the customer journey mapping. And this is laying out the different pages and what kind of general content we want on each page. So for this Wild Plum Cafe, of course, we need a homepage, and then have the different call to actions to take them throughout the site. So of course, you need a way for them to access the menu page, the catering services page, another page for displaying how their rewards and gift cards work, of course, an About Us page that shows their story and the significance of this establishment in the community. They have a partnership with Montage Health, so they want a page there to display the special menu they have for that particular partnership, and a blog page that will give the customers a way to be inspired, again, like relive their nice memories they had at the cafe, and read some stories on them.
Excellent. Now, at each one of these design stages, there are also SEO considerations you should take into account, because there's no sense building a site if nobody's going to be able to find the site. So search engine optimization is important. At the planning stage, you should be building a keyword strategy for the site. Thinking about, well, what are the search terms that we want our website to show up high in the Google search rankings for? So building that keyword strategy, and also thinking about what you're going to name your pages. So even at this stage, we've started to create names for pages, and you want those names to be helpful to your users in letting them know where they are and what's on that page.
Oh, can I just add something as far as like SEO?
Yep.
May not be the right time, but like not only take into consideration the names of your pages, but also consider the headlines that you're going to put into your page, the headers that are going to tell people what information they're looking at. Make sure you integrate those keywords into those as well.
Absolutely. So now we've gotten through the website planning. We have, we know what the goals are for the website, both for the business and for the visitors. We know the basic structure of the site, what pages it's going to have, how they're going to be arrayed, and we know what functionality the site needs to have. So now we can begin the actual design process. 3 different things we've got to do here: build a wireframe, we've got to come up with a look and feel for the site, and then the individual page design. So the website functionality, you want to list out very clearly and very early on, what are the functions the website needs to have? Do you need to have people able to register to go to, either to get on your site or to get to certain pages in the site? We have one client who has a wholesale business, and she only wants her retail customers to have access to certain pages on her site, so they have to register and sign in to get to those pages. Do you need e-commerce capabilities? Do you need to be able to sell things on your site and take payments and set up orders? Do you need to have response forms so people can fill out a form to ask a question or provide you with information that will help you serve them? Do you want to add a chat function? And we've become quite enamored of chat functions, because these days you can set up the chat function so that you don't have to have somebody on the site live. If there isn't an administrator immediately available, the chat function will send an email to the administrator. So that chat function on the sites that we've added that into has gotten very heavy usage and is very helpful for users.
I just want to add that I think this is really valuable for a lot of emerging businesses and small businesses that are mom and pop, and you have like a skeleton crew running it. The chat gives people a sense of immediacy. It lets them think that they're going to get an answer faster, you know, and they absolutely can. But if you don't have the manpower to chat, to man those all the time, you can still interact in that capacity with your users. It's very valuable for smaller companies.
And you can set it up so that it will provide them a message saying, you know, we'll get back to you in a certain amount of time. So they're not sitting there waiting for a live chat person if it's not live. Angelica, real quick, this example from the nieces.
Oh, yeah. Just an example of like e-commerce website. So if you want that capability, then you know, you need to take into consideration these can become very complex if you're selling products and you have a lot of different variables and different configurations of your products. Then you have to basically take the example of the Miro boards that we showed earlier, and like on steroids, you have to think of every combination you could need and get that sorted. So that's one of example of what a website might require for e-commerce. And then we also have, this is just an example of the chat function. It's in this example, it's expanded. So when they visit the site, all they'll see is that little circle at the bottom saying, hey, want to chat? Can we help you? And then it's up to the user to engage with it by clicking on that button, and then it opens up and it gives them an opportunity to interact with you in essentially real time.
Yep, in real time if there is an administrator on the site, and through email if there is not. Yeah,
Very important to pay attention to your emails, though, if you're going to use this strategy.
Yep. All right. Branding. Anjika, why don't you address a little bit about this part of putting the design together?
So this is the point where you might take ownership of the website. So this is the point where you get to express yourself and who your company is. You want to be, you know, careful about, I mean, by the time you're building a website, I'm going to assume that you have some branding behind your business. So you've already chosen your fonts and you've chosen your color palettes and maybe some images that, you know, bring your brand to the forefront of people's minds. So you want to utilize that throughout your website. Please, like, stay consistent with the branding that you're establishing. Use the color palettes that people are going to recognize. Use the font choices that you have already selected, and you know, make sure to sprinkle some imagery in there that helps to bring your brand to people's minds.
Excellent.
Oh, this is just a resource that I wanted to share with you. If you're kind of struggling a little bit with fonts and how to use them, Google Fonts is an amazing resource, and I can put the website into the chat in just a moment, but it allows you to select fonts by different styles: monospace, decorative, handwritten, serif, sans serif. There's a number of ways that you can search for fonts, and they're all free. You can download the packages and the web fonts included, so you can use them on your website. A lot of themes and a lot of platforms now integrate Google Fonts, so they will automatically load them into your website. And so another tool that people aren't so aware of with Google Fonts is the pairings. So this is an example of this website. I probably should have picked one that I know how to pronounce, but Viota Libre. You can go into that font and then you can select this, what's highlighted here is pairings, and it will make recommendations of fonts that work well with that. Unless you've really studied, you know, fonts and typography, it can be a little bit hard to make those selections and make them so that they work together. A website should ideally have just 2 different fonts and maybe utilize different, you know, parts of a family of font. I would go with no more than 3. Anything else is distracting and busy, and probably will start to resemble that awful Yale Arts website.
Excellent. All right, from here, so in the last step, we designed the basic look and feel for the website, or what I would call the branding of the website. And now we need to deal with the content on a page-by-page basis. This is where we go into the detail of the content for each page. And we have an example here of, what are we looking at here, Lynette?
So this is an example of the wireframe process that we did for siccmonterey.com. So the purpose of this exercise is for us to organize the content on each page and basically lay out maybe some call to actions, the textual content, and maybe some sections that we want our designer to include when designing the website. So this is the step before we go into design, but at least we gather all the information or content we want to put on a website page before we send it off to design. So this really helps us not jump straight into design before we know what we want to display on each page.
I can't express how important this step is as a designer. I can't tell you how many projects I've tried to work on with people, and getting content from them is like pulling teeth. And they feel like, oh, you're a designer, you can just throw something beautiful together. Can't do it without content. This is an essential step. Get the information that you want on your website down. Make sure that you have everything you want to say, and ideally imagery as well. And it'll make it so much easier for your designer to bring the project to a great conclusion swiftly.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. If you don't do this step first, and then your designer designs a beautiful page and you decide to add more content to it, the design might change. So it might make your designer a little bit upset and they have to go back and do a little bit more work.
Yeah, doing design work with content is a lot like a game of Tetris, and you need to know what pieces are coming down the pike. So if all of a sudden all of those pieces change, it can really shift the design. You have something beautiful and all of a sudden you have to kind of throw it out and start again.
So are you saying these aren't designed pages?
Yep.
No, they're not designed. So they're organized. There's an ordering to the content, but these are not designed pages. So these would be what would be handed over to Anjika for her to then turn them into really good looking pages. All right. At this stage, in the design stage, what do we need to be thinking about for search engine optimization? Again, page names and the URLs for each page. The URL is the web address up there. You want those URLs to contain your keywords and to be clear about what that page is about. Google actually looks at the URL to help it understand what the page is about. So if you have, not very many sites fall into this, but it used to be a common practice, you have page 1, page 2, page 3. That's not very helpful. You want it to say shop page or blog page, or actually you can be more creative than that. Meta descriptions for each page. Pardon?
You always want to be dropping clues. Think of yourself like Hansel and Gretel. You're dropping clues for your users, and you're dropping clues for the spiders and the search engines constantly.
But what if we don't have a clue?
Get one?
Yeah.
Hire a consultant.
Okay. Meta descriptions for each page. Now, the meta descriptions are really important. I'll show you an example in a moment of how Google uses the meta descriptions. You can build your own meta descriptions. You want to have your keywords in there, but you want to have the meta descriptions be intelligible to potential visitors, because it's what Google is going to show your meta descriptions on its search engine results page. I'll show you an example in a moment.
Can I cut in here quickly? If you
Yes.
don't select meta descriptions, then they're going to default to probably the first 2 sentences of the page, and that may have nothing to do with the end content that's most important.
Yep, exactly. As you're building the content, your keyword strategy needs to be kept in mind because you need to be executing that keyword strategy on a page-by-page basis. What's the focus of this page? What are the keywords we want to emphasize on this page, and build them into your textual and visual content. And internal links. Internal links are really important. Do not build your site with only the navigation bar for doing navigation. Google doesn't like that. Google wants your site to be easy to move around in, and it expects to find a well-structured internal linking from one page to another through buttons, through links in the text, through linked pictures, that clickable pictures, etc. So here's an example, and this is actually correcting an error that we caught recently as we were making changes on our website. And I did a search on our 21, the search was for 21CM digital marketing, and it found us. We showed up. But if you look at the text there, it says 21CM digital marketing for the 21st century. That's fine. And then it says 21CM logo, our services, web design, and then digital marketing. That's completely unintelligible. We had not, at this point, filled out the meta description. So as Anjika just said, Google simply took some content from the page and threw it in here. This is not helpful to users. So we went in and fixed the meta description, and now it says 21CM digital marketing has the digital marketing solutions to grow your business. Website design, SEO, digital advertising, social, so much more useful. And so you want to make sure, and I'm amazed, most sites have not created explicit meta descriptions. And they're making a huge mistake by not doing that. Okay, a little bit about navigation and user experience. Oh my God, Anjika, where did you find this?
Lynette found this one. Go
Oh,
ahead.
Lynette, where did you find this?
I actually Googled examples of navigation, and I found this site. And when I found this site, I laughed and I cried some tears. But this is a very good example of poor navigation. So you can see that everything's just jumbled together. On the left-hand side, which I assume is their navigation menu, is mostly in alphabetical order, but it doesn't have any hierarchy or any grouping. So it's just a mess.
I'm exhausted. My eyes haven't stopped moving since we got here.
So this page is so busy that to me, the eye actually processes this page as a single item, and my eye labels it a mess, and almost refuses to drill down into any of the specific items on the page. This isn't scannable. There's just no way for your eye to make sense of what's here. Versus another example, and I think Lynette, you got this one also, right?
Yes. So this is an example that I think is very usable, very clear. And if you do scroll to the New York Times website, if you scroll over or hover over one of the items in the navigation menu, you'll see a hierarchical structure. So this is a very clearly laid out navigation menu, and I like that a lot.
Cool. All right, now we get into designing the pages. And remember, contrary to this great example of a totally unscannable web page, you want to design for scanning. How do you do that? One obvious way is you use headers so that when people go down the page, they don't want to have to read your paragraphs. They want to be able to use the headers to know what's in that paragraph so they know whether they want to read it or not. You can also use graphics to create visual blocks that allow people to focus block by block rather than having the page be a full entire page. So the user can scan effectively. And again, there's a place you want to use keywords in your headings, especially the upper level headers, the H1 and H2 headers. Google is going to use those to understand what your site is about. Remember, you want your user to understand it, but you also want Google to understand it, so you show up in the search results. Then we build the site out, and this was an interesting stage because when I was thinking this through and I got to the build stage and I thought, well, what is there about usability? It's all laid out in the design, right? And then I thought about that for a second. And I thought, no, that was silly. There are some really, really important things at the build stage around usability, site loading efficiency, and performance on mobile. So most websites are going to have lots and lots of, there's going to be images, there's going to be text, there's going to be a lot of stuff to load. You want to make sure that when the site is being built, that it's being built with images that are sized correctly and set up in a way that the page can load very, very quickly. Your users will not wait. You've got, according to various measures, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 seconds before your user simply gets frustrated and leaves the page for another website. So you want your page to load instantly, and that has to do with images. It has to do with the organization of the page. It also has to do with the coding and some things that your backend designer needs to do around minimizing the coding. It's called minifying the code so that it loads very, very quickly. So this is a site we designed for nieces. And this is what the site looks like in, if you look at it in a browser. This is a screenshot of it in a browser. But if we narrow that down, so we're looking at it as if we were looking on a phone, for example, on a small screen, it scrunches the site together and it vertically aligns everything. So this is 3 separate screens, each one roughly the size of a phone. And you can see how it has taken what was horizontal here, bake shop, cake shop, vegan shop, and community, and has stacked it. So we've got bake shop, then below that comes cake shop, vegan shop, community, and then below that are some things that were not visible on the other page, recipes and live gluten-free. Now, when we initially built this site, we had to go back and check, and it turned out that the logo here was loading in a very strange place. I can't remember where it was, but it was, when you narrowed this down for mobile, the logo moved around to completely the wrong spot. So we had to go back and do some additional coding to make sure that it loaded correctly. So sites being usable on mobile is not automatic. Even if you're using a theme, like a WordPress theme that is a responsive theme, it's quite possible to have it not load correctly. It will be responsive. That is, you can narrow it down and it'll reorganize things. The question is, will it reorganize things the way you want them? Here's another example. So on the left is what West Coast Agave's site looks like in a browser. That's a screenshot from a browser. I love this site. This site is absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And when you narrow the site, note the way that it stacks. Now, note that the way this is set up, so there's this welcome that's a little bit over top of this box, and that box is over top, is overlapping. Both of the welcome and the box are overlapping with each other, and then the box is overlapping with the image behind. And when this was initially built, when you scrunched it down, all those kind of squiggled out in random places. We had to do some coding to get all of this to organize the way we wanted, which is that the box ended up on top of the image with the welcome then moving a little bit inside the box, but it's still overlapping onto the outside. That is not automatic. It takes some work to make sure that that gets done properly. All right. Now we get to the testing stage, and we've still got a few things to do to make sure that this is a usable site. First thing is we want to test and make sure that it's loading quickly. And there are a couple of different measures for site speed. The first one is how long does it take the page to load, to completely load? And you want that time to be as short as possible. You would like that time to be under 1 second. Actually, you'd like it to be instantaneous, but that can be hard to achieve. But secondly, so there's how long does the page take to load, but there's another measure, which is time to first interaction. That is, how long does it take until the page has loaded enough that the user can begin to interact with it, can begin to click on it. And that you also want to be very, very fast. And that usually takes some optimization work to get that, to get those site speeds as low as they need to be. Second, you want to know if the site is usable. The only way to find out if it's usable is to test it with users. And what we typically do is a 3-stage set of tests. The first tests are us. We give the site to everybody on our team and we say, okay, go find where it's not working. And we usually find some stuff that we have to fix. Then we turn it over to the client and say, okay, you play with it and find out what's working, and they find some other things. And then we have some potential users who are in the audience of intended users, but who have never seen the site before. So now we've got naive users and we test the site with them. And believe me, naive users can find amazingly creative ways to misuse a website. And if it's possible for them to misuse it, that's not their fault. That is a design issue and needs to be fixed. The third thing that needs to be tested, of course, is functionality to make sure the site does what it's supposed to do. Do all the links go where they're supposed to go? Do the forms work, and do they get emailed to the right person? Does the chat work? Does the e-commerce ordering work, et cetera? And that's pretty extensive testing that needs to be done. And finally, launch and monitor. You're not done. We're ready. We've got the site, it's tested. We're going to take the site live now, but by no means are we done. That site needs to be updated on a regular basis. The software needs to be updated. Software goes out of date quickly. In fact, WordPress just in the last couple of days launched a new WordPress version that's a very important update, because it's a security-based update, and that update needs to be done immediately. And I think we've gotten all of our sites updated now. The plugins and the software underneath the site need to be updated on a regular basis. We believe at least monthly, your site should be updated. Underneath the back end of the site should be updated. Secondly, the content needs to be updated so that your site has new and fresh content regularly. Google pays attention. If your website just sits there and doesn't get changed for months and months and years on end, Google will notice that, and it will penalize you in the rankings. As will your users, because there's nothing worse as a user than going to a site that has outdated content on it. And we all see those a lot. So we believe in regular site health monitoring to check on the site speed. We find that site speed tends to drift, usually downward over time, as edits get done, sometimes not well. Backlinks are really important, but you need to make sure that the backlinks are when other sites link to your site. That's a good thing. Google likes other sites to link to your site. That is probably the #1 determinant of your Google search ranking. But if you have link farms attached to your website, Google penalizes you for those. And so don't go out and buy links. Never, ever. Google will immediately recognize that. But even if you don't, it does happen that those sites will periodically link to your site. I've got one client, it's a paving materials company, that for some reason, and I think it's because there are a lot of images of projects on there, and other sites will link to those images, other sites that Google considers toxic. And on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, we go in, make sure that no new toxic sites have connected. If those sites do connect, we have tools that we use to communicate to that site and say, please remove that link. Surprisingly to me, most of the time they actually do, but if they don't, then you can go to Google and do what's called disavowing the site, which is you say, look, these folks link to us. It's not our fault. We know they're a toxic site. We hate them, but we can't get them to go away. And Google will say, okay, got it. And checking for internal and external broken links. Those happen more regularly than you would expect. We typically include a plugin in our websites that track changes in links, and that will usually fix most of the broken links, but we still need to check and make sure that broken links haven't occurred. We do that through our site health report. This is actually the header on one we just did recently for the Gateway Center that gives you information about all of the site health measures, site speed, links, backlinks, broken links, and other problems that may be occurring in the site that are not immediately, necessarily immediately obvious. And it brings me to the end of that. Let me go back to this into present mode. There we go. And that was customer-centered website design. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to pose? Issues you have with your sites you'd like to inquire about?
Are the breadcrumbs better than cookies?
Well, breadcrumb. Well, there's nothing better than a chocolate chip cookie. But I actually like breadcrumbs. They're really tasty and they make good snacks.
Brad, I have a question.
Yes, Kim.
We've put up 2 sites now. I did one. I worked with Fiverr, and they did one for us. And then we had Percy found somebody and they did a site for us. Our challenge has been malware. We keep getting hit with malware, and we thought initially, because we had initially put up a comment page, a comment where
yes,
comments.
Yeah.
And we discovered that wasn't a good idea because you would be malware that way. And so we took that down. But now even this last site, we just kept getting hit with malware, and just not sure why. We're not allowing commerce. We do allow orders, but we don't allow payments. And we took the comment section down. So like right now, our site is completely down. GoDaddy took it all down. I think HostGator basically said they took it down because we could not get rid of the malware.
So the first question would be, do you have an SSL certificate for the site? A secure site? You do?
No, I don't. We don't have an SSL.
Okay, that's number one. You need to have an SSL secure certificate.
I just want to add, you not only need it for protection of your site, but it's actually required to even register an SEO at this point.
So Chrome, for example, typically will not load a site that does not have an SSL certificate. And the other browsers So that's number one, is to get an SSL certificate. What kinds of malware are you getting? What are they doing?
The attacks have just been, they've just been taking down the site. They've been, we were getting notices from HostGator saying we detected malware, so we've taken your site down.
Got it. Okay.
And I don't have the expertise, which is why we've been kind of going between Fiverr and people who are trying to help us to go in there and really understand it all. So,
So these people have built your site. Did they build them? Did they custom code them, or did they build them in WordPress? Do you know?
WordPress.
In WordPress.
Mhm.
I just want to say, like, part of this, I think that part of the onus on this is actually probably on your hoster. Gator hosting, HostGator, whatever I've worked with in the past, and they are kind of a discount hosting provider, and they don't have everything in line to fully protect your website.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's getting more and more important to choose your hosting service wisely. There's so much going on with cyber attacks that
It started with GoDaddy, and then the guy from Fiverr said, no, you don't want to use GoDaddy.
Right.
And he was actually one of the ones who recommended we go to HostGator. This was probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
They haven't
and
necessarily the case.
That's
And-
kind of where we are.
Yeah, I'll tell you that, like, it took a lot of convincing for me, because I used to be like, oh, GoDaddy, it's affordable, blah, blah, blah. They offer all these things. You can have subsites, you can have all of these things, but they just don't have the framework in place to fully protect sites. They don't have the resources available for a lot of websites that are going to have visitors. You know, if you're hoping to grow your audience, I just can't stress enough that you really want to invest, and it sounds expensive sometimes in the beginning, but when you look at what you get for a good hosting plan, SSL certificates sometimes included, security, real-time support. So that's my answer to that.
So we've been using a site called Kinsta, Kinsta. Maybe Lynette, you can put that in chat. Kinsta.com. They're actually UK based, interestingly. They have been fabulous. We have completely stopped using GoDaddy. We've had so many problems with GoDaddy, and Kinsta, we have found, is cutting edge. They're upgrading. They send us regular notices if there's something that needs to be updated immediately because there's an identified security issue. They'll send an email out saying, update this now. And initially it looked like they were more expensive, but Kinsta actually includes the SSL certificate in their basic hosting plan, which makes it pretty much the same price as GoDaddy, because GoDaddy is going to give you a real cheap plan, and then you have to pay for the SSL certificate. HostGator probably does the same thing. But
yeah, GoDaddy looks at the SSL certificate like an upsell. It's not an upsell. It's an essential part of a fully functioning website.
And there are other security measures that the hosting provider needs to have in place to block folks from getting to your site. But also reach out to us after after this session, and we can take a look and see if we have other recommendations. Our developer, Pranilla Dahl, is moving today, so she was not able to join us tonight. She might have some other suggestions also, because she's really the back end developer for our group.
Okay, yeah, we're probably gonna be reaching out to you guys to help us get our website up.
Help!
Well, and Fred, I mean, it's been a challenge. I started one because I have know enough to be dangerous. But the challenge I had, I thought it looked amateur, and last thing you want to do is have an amateur looking website. And
Right.
so
Yep.
then it was, no, we need somebody to actually design it for us. And that's kind of, the last 3 or 4 years has been really hit or miss with our website, as far as sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. And then the other challenge has been maintaining it, right? I mean, we get it up and then it's, yes, we need to change the content. Yes, we want to update our pictures. We want to update where we're going to be. We want to, holiday season comes along and it becomes where we send everybody to place their Thanksgiving Day pie orders. And so it becomes, from the first week of November to like the first week of January is when we probably get 80% of our traffic as far as selling and things like that. And then, and so it's an important tool for us, but it has been a challenge.
It has been.
I would argue that it's like even more important these days with everything that's happening with COVID. So many people are relying on the internet for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's your first line of communication with your end customer.
Which is why the first thing I did was sign up for this webinar tonight.
Hey,
Have you?
it's so good to see you two again.
It really is. It's amazing.
For the summer.
We
Yeah.
got some stuff. We got some. It's been so long since the site's been up, and we've collected years of pictures that have never been posted.
Oh, wow.
I mean, a lot of pictures. Past we did jazz festival one time. We hooked up with 2 groups, and we were doing.
Oh, so you've got great pictures.
Mountain
I'm just
View.
curious how you are reaching out to your clientele without the website. Are you using social media mostly?
Well, during COVID, we haven't been doing much of anything because we're not really baking. Prior to COVID, our main way of reaching out to customers were through events, right? And so
emails. They would send me emails.
we do events, and then I always had a book where people could sign up and leave me their name and address. I mean, a client list.
We have a huge client list.
I
extensive
have,
client
yeah,
list.
we have a little giveaway at our table where if you drop me a card, if you drop your card in the basket, we'll pull it for a free pie for every event. So that's another way to collect business cards. So
I take free pies.
pies for website.
We're definitely going to have to talk more about that. I mean, I'm up in Portland now, but I could always send one to my kids or my ex-husband.
Oh no, we shipped to Atlanta. We can get you one to Portland. Don't worry.
Cool. So let me check in here. Tom, did you have a question?
I did. Related questions there. First, we just renewed my SSL and website, I guess, with GoDaddy.
Okay.
How hard is it to take it away from them to send it to somebody else?
It's now whether they will give you your money back. So that's between you and GoDaddy. Moving a site from one provider to another, if you know how to do it, is very easy. This is another thing I love about Kinsta. We've migrated several sites to Kinsta. They actually do most of the migration for you. You have to set the DNS, but they do the actual migration for free.
I'd like to take a moment to point out that is also an upsell with GoDaddy.
Oh, absolutely.
Get them to migrate it, you're going to pay for it.
But luckily, I haven't been having any problems, so there's no hurry.
Yeah.
The second one was that comment page. I get a lot of Russian language. I'm wondering what
bringing
is
back. So Tom, you're bringing back nightmares for Anjika because years ago, one of the first sites she built for the IIED.
When I first started working for IIED, I said, I'm not all that into like the web thing. I'm more into like graphics for like print. And they're like, okay, great, you're hired. And then like 1 month in, they're like, by the way, we need to rebuild the entire website. I'm like, okay, cool. And like, yeah. So anyway, I think we had something like at least 40,000 spam comments from Russia alone.
Yep.
Or, they were all in like Russian. Do you have a CAPTCHA installed on your site, Tom?
No, it's not that big a problem yet. So it hasn't been a need yet. I'm just wondering.
Put one in before it becomes too big a problem.
Get proactive, install a CAPTCHA. You can get a free one through Google and you can choose how it interacts. You can make it a very simple one where they just click, I'm not a robot, or you can make it more complicated where they have to do a little very simple math calculation, or they have to find all the motorcycles in the pictures that they show
I
you.
hate that one.
I hate that one too. Because I'm like, okay, it's a handlebar of a motorcycle. Is it a motorcycle? Anyway, yeah, install a CAPTCHA. That will help a lot.
Good, good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Kathy Bell has a question.
Kathy Bell, yes.
So for visual stuff, CAPTCHA can be kind of hard to see, especially if you have to grab the reading glasses or whatever. And since 25% or more are 50 and older these days, you definitely want to have visual. You don't want to have a different background and have it really hard to read the text, or not have it bold enough or dark enough.
Right.
Yes, and there are CAPTCHAs available for visually impaired people that rely on audio.
Mhm.
And there are tools also to test that, and Google pays attention. Google Search Console, which, by the way, I'll do my usual plug for, always connect your website to the Google Search Console, because that will help your SEO just by connecting it to the Google Search Console. And Google Search Console can give you a ton of useful information, including accessibility considerations like Kathy Bell was just raising.
Right. We didn't really delve into that so much in this presentation, but it is extremely important that you make your site as accessible as possible.
Yep.
So, you know, making sure that contrast, you know, you have enough contrast between your fonts and your backgrounds throughout your site. Anything that people are going to have to rely on for information, you want to make sure that you know, make it easily accessible to the widest possible audience. And another part of that is, you know, besides contrast for people who are visually impaired, if you have people who are blind, you definitely need to include alt tags in all of your images, because that allows their readers, there are tools for blind people to use that will read the websites to them. And if you don't have those alt tags in there, they're going to not even know what that image is about, and you will get dinged for that in SEO, and you'll lose your audience, and you're not serving the end user.
Yeah, I handed a brochure of the new Capitola library to my dad and stepmom, and the first 3 pages are not really easy to read, and they're about the donors. And after that, you get into the really cool stuff. Well, they looked at the first couple of pages and they handed it back because they didn't want to go past those pages to get to the good stuff. So
yeah, accessibility is really a critical issue. And Google, again, with SEO, Google is enforcing that by penalizing in SEO, in search results, penalizing sites that are not accessible. So yeah, really good point. Well, that brings us to the close of the evening. We always ask people, if you've got a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, please put it into chat and we will put that into our queue. In July, our plan is to have, we're featuring actually a Salinas, young woman who grew up in Salinas, and she is now up in Washington State, and she has a marketing practice there. And she's going to do a presentation on developing a digital marketing strategy. And that will be the 4th Tuesday in July, which is July 27th. We'll announce that on our website. If you're interested in getting a free website health report, I encourage you to do that. Go to our website, sign up for it. All we're going to ask for is your website URL and your name and an email address, and we'll get that website health report to you. And with that, I think that is it. Thank you all very much for joining us.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great time. We will chat
Brad.
again soon.
And Brad, will the recording be available?
Yes, it will. It takes us a few days to get the recording available, but it will be up on the website.
Yeah, we will. We need to take a little time to edit it for brevity, and then we also try to build a blog post based on the content that's, you know, for people who prefer to read.
Yeah, and save the chat because that isn't saved in the recording. So where that
Yes.
says file and dot, dot, dot,
Yep.
hit the dot, dot, dot and save the chat.
We will do that.
All right.
Thank you all very
Thanks
much.
again, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.